Hi, Lori. How are you?
Good. How are you, Beth? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing well. I'm very excited to speak with you about Anniversary. Absolutely loved it. So thank
Oh,
you so much for
cool.
writing it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Um, the film is incredibly fascinating, especially given the climate we're living in right now. So, did you set out to make Anniversary an uncomfortably real story, or was that a happy accident?
Certainly uncomfortable, but a real story, no. In fact, we first started talking, the director and I, Jan Kamasa, about the film during the pandemic. And I think you can probably see a lot of those influences in the film, the idea of, living in our bubbles. And what we were also seeing, besides the virus, was also the virus of populism and these sort of different populist movements around the country. So we were really just trying to do a sort of a worst case scenario caustic tale about what could happen. This is certainly more prescient in Jan's life, being from Poland and democracy being newer to the Polish people, so to speak. So he was kind of fascinated by the idea of this happening in America and told through a very intimate family story. So yeah, it's been this was way before re-election, all those things. So I might be a little psychic. I'm not quite sure. Not on purpose, but
It's an interesting way to find out you have those abilities.
someone said to me, "Can you please predict the lotto and we can share that?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm going to try to do that now. It's my next script."
Um, So, when you were creating the story and the characters, what went into creating and like managing the intertwining family dynamics with the political dynamics?
A lot because it was very intricate. It's very unusual. It's not a traditional structure. It's a five-act structure. Um, and we have full character arcs. There is some latitude when you're working in character arcs that you have years in between, so they can suddenly go from being the first time you meet someone to someone maybe being very pregnant the next time that you're introduced to them. So you can just sort of arc into stories and you're there. Um, but there were a lot of things that were sort of difficult to navigate. One certainly is the idea of telling a story that you do not want to be, divisive in the way that you're not connoting one party or the other, but you know that this is a film about ideology or a popular book that becomes politicized and by a large corporation or a think tank. So navigating that through the course of 5 years, and then with our goal to end up, somewhere where it's completely different from the beginning of it, from the 25th anniversary to the 30th, and tell a whole movement outside that without going to news clips and things is difficult, particularly again when you're not trying to be a partisan film. So there was a lot to navigate with story arcs, characters that grow over 5 years, and the plotting of the film. And also the other big issue, honestly, was telling a story from within a family home. We had a very, very modest budget. We shot it in Ireland, primarily in a single location. Um, so we were just, full of riches to get the cast, I will say, and to have them just be such pros and just really embody the Taylors, so well. And but yeah, for a writing situation, it was the most challenging thing that I've ever written, without a doubt. So, and I had certain guidelines and goalposts that the director really wanted to keep intact. So I had to navigate within that structure that he wanted. So, you know, but anyway, I learned my craft on that one.
But yeah, speaking of the cast, absolutely incredible. It really felt like you wrote the characters with them in mind. Um, did you?
No, I was actually just, I mean, so pleasantly like elated, when I heard who wanted to do this film. It was almost like, and by the way, when it started shooting, we hit a writer strike. I kind of wanted to go in there and suddenly like go, a Daryl McCormick, what? I gotta, go in there and do some more layering and and they but anyway, no, I didn't. But the minute that I'd heard that Diane read and was interested, I was like, oh my God, like she is such the embodiment. I followed her entire career, worked since she's 12 years old, right? And she just has that integrity and that emotionality and that depthfulness, and I just love how she goes for it. She actually went to a political science instructor at UCLA to really sort of learn, um, you know, professors and what they can, or what the rules are for being in that situation with a student. And so it was great. And then everyone who came on board, Kyle is sort of the peacekeeper and what he does with the family. Like, I can't think of anyone like more sort of all American and who just has that ingrained, and you just see it in his, his expression. So no, it was with everybody. Phoebe Denevor, I can't think of anyone else in any of the roles, honestly. I think they were all, amazing. So
Oh,
yeah. I
yeah,
wish I was that smart, but no, I did not think with anyone in mind. Which I usually do. Yeah, that was very different actually.
that's very interesting for sure. I also really liked how, with it being set around this one family in this pretty much one location, that the house itself kind of started to become a character. Do you
Yes.
see it that way?
Yes, absolutely. I think that the film almost turns into like a haunted house, if you will. I mean, I think that,
Yeah.
I always said that it was going to slowly go into kind of a social horror film. And that, I think the film gets a little bit more claustrophobic. In the beginning, we're much more outside the film in the yards. It takes place in Virginia. There's a lot of woodlands there. You're on the Potomac. It's right outside of DC. Um, but yes, absolutely. I think you start feeling those, more sort of narrow hallways. And I know that it was important for Jan and his DP to think about making the film more sort of sparse in its interior designs and get darker. I think they may have even painted the walls, like they did some little cinematic tricks to kind of make you feel that way. So absolutely, it's a character in the film.
Okay, good.
You're spot on.
I I just the claustrophobic feeling, like it just that mixed in with the uneasiness of the intentions and the movement and everything, it just
I also think there's surveillance, right? So when you have all that come across as well, then you start feeling watched and landlocked, So,
sorry, I saw a little notification, so
oh, you got it.
wanted to make sure I was still doing good on time. Um, so my final question for you is I absolutely loved the inclusion of being able to read people through their coffee order. So, what's your coffee order and what does that say about you?
That is the best question anyone's ever asked me.
Oh,
I
no.
am, I guess, a people pleaser, although I don't like sugar and coffee. It's just simple cream. But I love a good bean. I will say that. And I do think you know a lot about people through their coffee order. But I have my own little analysis about that, which is very weird and doesn't make any sense. So I won't even explain what that is. But thank you for pointing that out. That's so funny. And it was a really interesting segue to get into the intensity of that scene. So that's where that kind of stemmed from.
No, it
Those
was
are
great.
both Irish actors, by the way. I thought the enumerators were great.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for chatting. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I absolutely loved Anniversary. So,
Oh, thank you, Beth. I love talking to you guys, so I really appreciate it.